On this episode of That Was a Show?
Hey, have you guys watched Townies?
Even before it starts, how bad are the establishing shots in this? I don't understand it because, this aired. This aired.
What's with his blazer, too? It looks too big.
It's a 90s blazer, man. They didn't fit.
Double-breasted,
Yeah.
2 sizes too big.
Oh, here it comes.
And
there she is.
With the towel over her shoulder, as she has to have.
Yeah, she didn't say honey or sugar, but...
I'm sure she does in another episode.
Yeah, she has 16 more episodes.
But first, a word from the hosts.
We recorded the episode you're about to hear back in late April during peak COVID-19 lockdown, with the three of us connecting over Zoom.
Now that we're finally releasing this episode, we're still social distancing and want to encourage everyone to stay safe. These are challenging times, but we'll get through this. Be kind to yourself and to everyone else. We're all in this together.
We also continue to stand in support of the ongoing protests for racial justice, and we hope that we can all work toward building a new normal, a better normal, from all of this.
Now let's share a few laughs about a truly ridiculous show. And stay tuned for our commercial break. Remember when sitcoms had commercial breaks? Because we're going to announce our very first contest.
Cold Open. We grew up during peak sitcom, Seinfeld, Friends, The Fresh Prince. But those shows were diamonds in the rough. This podcast is not about those diamonds. It's about the rough. Some sitcoms were briefly popular in their time. Some were canceled almost immediately. You probably won't recognize most of these, and you'll ask, that was a show?
That was a show?
The podcast about failed or forgotten sitcoms from the 80s and 90s, starring
Brynn Byrne,
Aaron Yeger,
And Andrew Helmer as Barry.
a Radio Gizmo production.
Hello and welcome to this responsible social distancing episode of That Was a Show. I'm Aaron Yeger, and I'm here with my co-host, Brynn Byrne.
Hi, it's me, Brynn. I'm here right next to Aaron, and if you didn't pick up on it on our previous episodes, we're a married couple, so that's why we're able to be in the same room together.
Exactly. As for our close friend and other co-host, Barry, we're going to bring him in over the phone.
Hello.
Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not much. It's good to see you, friend.
It is nice that video chat exists.
Yeah.
It's really
It's,
made all of this a little more bearable.
Mm-hmm.
It really, I mean, I think everybody is definitely starting to experience how much, because I have never, I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. Up until 2 weeks ago, I had never used a webcam. Not once.
Wow.
I had not a single time.
Wow. We're very lucky to have a lot of services and people and wonderful resources to help us through this otherwise totally ridiculous and weird and scary time.
I was able to watch an ungodly amount of this show we're talking about today.
So on that note,
Good. Nice casual segue.
Great,
Exactly.
Great segue. Brynn, why don't you tell us about Townies?
Yeah, so today's episode is dedicated to the 1996 masterpiece called Townies. It was a sitcom that premiered on ABC in September 1996. It was created by Matthew Carlson, who had previously been a writer for The Wonder Years and had created 2 other short-lived sitcoms, Camp Wilder and The Boys Are Back. Was third time a charm for Matty Carlson? Evidently not. They made 15 episodes of Townies, but it was canceled after 10 and only 10 aired. The show is set in...
Let's start again.
Yeah, it's Gloucester?
Gloucester.
Gloucester.
They say Gloucester.
Gloucester.
Why don't you just say Massachusetts?
indeterminate distance from Boston.
Gloucester. I'm just going to say Gloucester. It's fine.
We're going to lose our entire Massachusetts fan base on this one episode.
Yeah. It's a small fishing town somewhere near Boston. And the titular Townies are 3 girlfriends working in a seafood restaurant. They're played by, wait for it, Molly Ringwald, Jenna Elfman, and Lauren Graham. Also rounding out the main cast are Bill Burr and Ron Livingston. And of course, we can't forget our girl Conchetta Farrell.
She's nobody's aunt, but she might as well be.
And her name is Marge, because of course it is.
Of course it is.
In the pilot, it's not very heavy-handed. It's basically just the lead up to and the eventual wedding of 2 of the characters, Ryan and Denise, and how the cast is dealing with it. And we sort of get to know the 3 girls, Carrie, Denise, and Shannon, and get to know about their lives and their friendship dynamic. They have a brief falling out at near the end, and then come back together for the big event.
And it's a bold choice to open a series with a wedding episode right off the top.
I was thinking that exact same thing.
Yeah.
How much that would infuriate any producer, where they were just like, oh, great, let's keep this pilot cheap. Let's fucking throw a wedding.
Yeah.
And
they don't even show it.
No.
They just have this weird silent montage with Natalie Merchant playing.
With sentimental music, whereas we don't know who any of we barely know who any of these people are. We don't care about the fact that they're getting married. There's no feelings to be felt.
But in the first of what is going to be 700 references to Friends in this this episode, Friends also starts with a wedding, but Friends also wisely chooses to ignore it. The wedding does not happen on screen.
Yeah.
Instead, they use Rachel in a wedding dress as a visual, and that's it.
Yeah. And they could have done that, but instead they chose to shoot an entire wedding sequence and then edit it together really weirdly. And
I was telling you guys that because I watched this and it reminded me of it so much, I'm like, I need to watch the pilot for Friends, because I'm like, I remember just being like, that's a pilot that works. And the thing that struck me about it is they do a lot of the exact same things. They introduce just as many characters who have just as much backstory with each other. They have a lot of comedic moments, but then they also balance them with dramatic moments as well. And it just works in Friends. And I think one of it is because Friends overall is all right, well, we got to make sure to be funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Brynn, why don't you tell us why you chose Townies?
So I chose Townies because I remember it from when it originally aired. I enjoyed this show as an 11-year-old. It had all the things I wanted. It had young people. I was very fascinated with not only teenagers at the time, but young adults who were out being independent and working and dating and doing all those things. And I was very fascinated.
Of
so
course.
I watched all that content. I watched Friends, I watched Townies, I watched all of it. So I also, of course, got into the whole hype of it's Molly Ringwald's first venture back into a lead role in a very long time, because of course she was the John Hughes darling of the 80s and, was finally going to get to be, the star of a show after several years.
So she was no stranger to heavily sexist writing.
Exactly.
Good point.
But, so basically I watched it. I liked it. I didn't know any better. It's, okay. So where do we even begin?
Well,
this show, of all the shows we've done so far, is the lowest concept.
Yeah,
So
this is our true hangout show.
Yeah,
Yes.
It is. And it's clearly meant, and I've read plenty of articles over the week about how it was meant to compete with Friends and be the blue collar Friends, Molly Ringwald herself in an interview called it Friends Meets Roseanne because ABC
Okay. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ABC had a real boner for working class sitcoms, which I appreciate. And it was
Absolutely.
And it was
Absolutely.
on Wednesday nights alongside the Drew Carey Show and Grace Under Fire, which are both
Right.
like very
Blue-collar shows,
shows.
And honestly, a working class, more blue collar sitcom, hangout style sitcom about Gen Xers of that era in a small
Mhm.
town outside Boston, which slants more toward the stories of the three female characters, sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. And like it being a Friends ripoff in no way discounts it from working. It's just more
Yeah.
like it there's no reason why you couldn't have done this show and be great because ABC, you're right. ABC really did have like they did have a show boner for blue collar and like good. They should.
They
most,
should.
Most people who watch sitcoms aren't sitcom writers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
It's,
it makes sense to be like, maybe why don't we tell some stories about people who are probably watching this?
I just feel like maybe they rushed to do the show because they wanted their answer to Friends and maybe didn't have enough people punching it up or something.
Oh, it's funny you should mention though that they were doing that because it aired alongside Drew Carey and who'd you say was it Grace
Under Fire? Yeah.
Interesting.
Both shows that work way better than this.
Yeah, and they ran for several seasons.
They like ABC was kind of like stealthily like kind of had like a second night of comedy going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, Must See Thursday and between what was the Simpsons line? Between Must See Thursday and CBS's Craporama Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, where do we start?
My first reaction when I started watching this is that this is the type of sitcom that at that time I would have been super into. Like I wasn't aware of this show, but like this is the kind of show I watched, and like a Friends-esque show set in a small fishing village near Boston totally sounds like something I would have been into.
Yeah.
And I kind of started watching this and I'm like, I want this to work. And it doesn't make me laugh. It doesn't it doesn't work for me, but
to be fair, we did laugh out loud every time Conchata Ferrell showed up on screen, but not because the lines were funny, but because they were so perfectly stereotypical grumpy lady Conchata Ferrell lines.
Those are ironic laughs. Like Conchata Ferrell comes roaring in with her classic snarky line. We're on episode 4 of our podcast, and she's in 50% of the shows that we've done so far. So I was thinking,
we're not doing this on purpose.
No, we're not doing this on purpose. But should we come up with a Conchata counter?
Yeah, we should.
And just keep a running tally.
This is a new little mini segment.
She herself is a sitcom trope.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. She walks up, leans down on a counter, towel over the shoulder, delivers that zinger like a ninja, and then swoops out.
I actually audibly like whooped. So for those watching at home, Conchata Ferrell plays the I don't know. It's not clear in the pilot if she owns the fish shack or if she's just another waitress.
It becomes clear in future episodes that she owns it.
She's the owner. She's the boss lady.
And it's it's some pretty great Conchata Ferrell.
Yeah,
and like and that's the thing is like they're ironic laughs, but on the other hand, like no one delivers a Conchata Ferrell line quite like Conchata Ferrell.
It still made me happy, like it's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of interrupted you. You're like, I want this to work.
I want this to work. Like when I first saw things online about, it looks like this is going to be a Friends style show. Yeah. And it looks like it's going to be about 3 men and 3 women. And when I see by like midway through the first episode that clearly this is really about the 3 women and that the male characters are like minor supporting roles by comparison, that it really is about the 3 women. And like they are exploring those Gen X, mid to late 90s sort of existential crises about career and relationships. I'm like, I'm on board for that. But then the way it's executed, like Am I wrong, or is the Shannon character played by Jenna Elfman just there for the purpose of slut shaming her?
Yeah, completely.
At least in the pilot, she is.
Yeah.
And
the whole thing.
And again, like Friends carryover times 7. I was watching the pilot, and Monica also has like sex with somebody, like, you know, upon first meeting them, and apparently it was a huge thing for NBC.
I read about this. Yes.
Yeah, they were worried about the audience turning on her.
Yeah.
And like when they did all the reviews, like no one brought it up once.
Yeah.
And that was 3 years prior to this.
Yeah.
Whereas then this show has a real problem with promiscuity.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I did a deep dive and read a lot of articles from the time. A lot that were written by like smarmy male television critics, and they were all very mean-spirited toward that character specifically, and also just toward Molly Ringwald as well, and her performance, and how she didn't live up to her, you know, potential or whatever. But we'll get more into that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of the 90s were surprisingly puritanical in the United States. Like surprisingly, and I think it's especially for ABC. They like people had a really hard time with the amount
House of Mouse, you know.
Yeah, like they had a really hard time with the amount of sex talk, and I want to pull something out of one of the articles I read, which is pretty insane.
Okay.
It's like basically talking about Lauren Graham's character and how like slamming the fact that she had a baby before marriage, which is like really wild.
Like it's weird. While you're looking for that article, it's just
that baby is also just a punchline in this.
Yeah.
In this several times.
It's so weird to me that like these 3 women seem to have been written with the intent of examining views on sex and relationships in an honest and interesting way, as if it's like as if there's a draft of script where the goal was not to shame them for what's happening. Like,
Lauren Graham having a character like a baby out of wedlock, I was like, that's really interesting. That's just sort of it. That's just part of the character. You don't see that in 90s TV much. And then, of course, it's just used to kind of put her down.
Shannon is very like self-assured. She's confident. She doesn't care what people think about the way she lives her life. Like there's something great about the 3 characters. And then it's almost like the person who came up with the 3 characters and whoever wrote the script of how those characters actually got treated were 2 very different people.
Here, I got it. It's from the Sun Sentinel, which is some rag out of Florida. And,
great, Brynn. Now we've alienated the Sun Sentinel's readership.
What city in Florida? This is important.
I don't know.
Jacksonville? Is it Jacksonville?
It's probably, I don't know.
Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyway, so it's this guy, Tom Jicka.
Okay.
So basically the headline is Townies is another Friends clone gone wrong. Well, duh. But basically, so this chunk is the gold here. It's the pilot turns on the frantic preparations for Denise's somewhat tardy wedding.
Why is it? Oh, wow. That was very cheeky.
Yeah, she has to interrupt dress fittings to breastfeed the child that she and her fiancé produced. It's commendable that the 2 of them are doing the right thing.
Wow.
But Denise ought to reconsider the long-range prospects for the union. At the 11th hour, her boyfriend Ryan proposes postponing the wedding because it conflicts with a basketball game he wants to see. So basically, this is a sentiment back then. People did not like to, see young women, Gen Xers, having some sort of non-traditional romantic or sex life. Even though Denise is the one getting married, she's being shamed in this article because she had a baby before she got married. It's just wild. And and there's several articles, and it's a lot of like male critics just being really, really snipey, slut shaming the Shannon character, and just talking about the Molly Ringwald character as being very boring and kind of a shrew.
Just while we were doing that, I did a quick Google, and the last article I could come up with was from 1999. It was about Dawson's Creek, and just the sentence, it's not playing fair that every homosexual character that walks through Dawson's Creek is painted as sympathetic, but painting the one youth in town who is church-going Christian is a hypocritical basket case. So he's got a lot of bones to pick with a lot of...
He's got an agenda.
Well, every line, maybe not every line, but the first episode is very heavy on dialogue about dating and sex, yet they feel uncomfortable treading into that dialogue, but they just keep focusing on it. And there's like no faith in the audience that we'd be willing to suffer through any time spent on actually establishing who anyone is or like what's going on.
But it's funny you should mention that. And it's not that we're not learning these other things, is that the other stuff we learn through context, whereas they don't do the same for their dating stuff. Like, they're pretty good at getting that going without really
hammering it
in, but they have they're not able to show any of them on a date to see like this is what they're up, like this is like the only context we get is like Jenna Elfman's character in the second scene of the pilot. They go to their house and she's been blackout drunk and she had sex with somebody who's just naked in the bathroom. But that's just so the characters can slut shame her.
Yeah, exactly.
By actually calling her a slut.
Yeah, like literally a hard S. Yeah.
Hard S.
There's no joke. Molly Ringwald just says, "You're a slut."
Yeah.
I feel like in this show, that line of dialogue where she's called a slut so directly could have been a network note of like, you can't just show, like, she has to be shamed for this behavior.
Hey, let's take her down a peg.
Yeah, it's, there's a lot of problematic stuff that does not hold up. It's overall, it's very like heteronormative and gender binary. It's there's just so much establishing of this is what men do, this is what women do. This is
opens on a bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what a men's bathroom is like.
It's all very binary. Like,
it is, and it's also like I think the biggest problem the show has, and it's through every single facet of it, is these people don't like each other.
Yeah.
And it's awkward. And it's also like, there are shows where like characters like kind of ragging on each other happens, like Seinfeld, they do it and stuff like that, or Always Sunny. But like, like where something like Friends works is because at no point do you ever go, why are they friends?
Yeah.
Like in Friends or most successful sitcoms, you're like, they enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
Yes.
These girls do not enjoy each other's company, and the men really don't enjoy each other's company.
Well, I think the men like each other. They're very bro-y with each other. I think I would say no, they do not, because like that, the way they don't really converse with each other, they really don't seem to.
They don't have a natural rapport.
Yeah. But
they tolerate each other.
But you can see the male influence on the writing because the women are kind of at each other's throats, and it's like women being pitted against each other. That not only happened on screen, but sort of behind the scenes as well. There was no actual feud between the actors that I could find, but the press certainly liked to put
drum it up.
Yeah, like they like to put Jenna Elfman up on a pedestal and knock Molly Ringwald down. Jenna Elfman is like the next brightest star, and Molly Ringwald has sunk into a new low, and she's never going to recover from this.
I mean, at least on the Elfman front, like, I get it. Like, from the second she walks out in this, like, she emerged from the womb ready for pilot season.
Yeah.
And, like, she stayed pilot aged for about 25 years.
Right.
And like she is just so at home in a sitcom that like that character could just walk on to any other show and just not lose a beat.
This seems like a suitable moment at this topic cliffhanger to cut in for a commercial break.
I'd like to give a shout out to our incredibly talented friend Brian Walker, who created the artwork for That Was a Show. If you're a fan and want to help support the show, or you just like funny cartoon drawings of real people with a 90s color scheme, check out our merch at redbubble.com/thatwasashow. Right now, you can get our show poster on everything from t-shirts to mugs, or even those public radio-style tote bags. More great designs coming soon, so check it out at redbubble.com/thatwasashow.
Contest!
We're announcing our first ever contest. Want to win a That Was a Show t-shirt? There are 2 different ways to win.
Subscribe to That Was a Show on Apple Podcasts. You know, iTunes. Make sure to rate and review us. Whoever writes the best and funniest review by July 31st, 2020 will get their review read in a future episode and win the first t-shirt.
Also, we shared a version of the show artwork on Instagram with our Anchor web address at the bottom. Screen grab this and post it on your own Instagram, and be sure to tag the show and the other info described in our post, so that we can find you. In your written comments, tell us about your favorite failed or forgotten sitcom from the 80s or 90s. We'll pick our favorite to win the second t-shirt, and if we really like your idea, maybe it'll even be a future episode. Do this by July 31st, 2020.
Contest!
I guess this is what happens when you're living in isolation and you're bored and you're researching a show like this, and I needed to know if Jenna Elfman is related to Danny Elfman, the famous composer. And
see, this is I didn't realize that I needed an answer to this question, but please tell me.
I needed an answer to this question. And so, as it turns out, she was born Jennifer Butala. She married a guy named Bodie Elfman about 1 year before making this show Townies.
Great name.
And took his name, and that's why she's known as Jenna Elfman. But she was Jennifer Butala. Now, Bodie Elfman is indeed the nephew of composer Danny Elfman. Boom. Now, I also found out from Wikipedia that they are both Scientologists, and
Yes.
I would research that further, but I really don't care.
But young me definitely had a crush on her.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's got that vibe that,
Yeah,
like...
the young Barry vibe.
No, but any guy that I would have been friends with or
I
dated,
totally had a crush on her.
had a crush
Are
on
you kidding
Jenna
me?
Elfman. Like, it's that kind of nerdy guy who, she
Yeah.
fits into that archetype.
She led a movie. Oh Jesus! I think it's called Playing the Faith.
Keeping
And
the
it was
faith.
Keeping the Faith
With, like,
with her, Edward Norton.
And is Matt McConaughey in that too? Or no?
Oh,
maybe not.
man.
Did you call him Matt
I
McConaughey
did.
like you know him?
Dead.
Oh, it's Stiller. It's Stiller.
Oh, okay, interesting.
sorry,
What?
just for-
Was she in a movie with Matthew McConaughey?
Oh, very likely.
Ed
This
TV,
is-
I think.
How? Yeah, you're right. She's the female lead in Ed TV.
Yeah.
The log line for Keeping the Faith. 2 friends, a priest and a rabbi, fall in love with the same woman they knew in their youth, but the religious position of both men denies them romance.
Good
Classic.
Lord.
Wow. That's a joke that takes place in a canoe, but somehow expanded into a show.
No, it's a movie. It was a full movie.
A canoe joke into a movie.
And I went and saw it in theaters.
Right off the bat, I thought Ron Livingston is delivering a perfect version of Chandler Bing.
Oh yeah, if it's like Chandler without any of the likable parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if Chandler were someone who just like negged women
Yeah, which
constantly.
maybe he did sometimes.
Early Chandler is not negging women a lot.
Fair.
Yeah, this is a lower energy kind of mopier small fishing village. Don't want to really live there.
It's sleazy Chandler Bing. He lives with his parents. He's like kind of a drunk, and he's like really creepy and pervy.
Does he live with his parents or does he live with her parents?
No,
Carrie's
no,
parents.
no.
He lives with his mother.
No, he lives with his mother.
Which is great because Townies. It makes
So wait,
sense
Yeah,
that his character.
No, there's a scene where he's with her family, but he's just over for dinner. basically.
Okay,
He's just, like,
so
over for
she
dinner.
lives with
Because
her parents.
She lives with her parents.
He
Yeah.
lives with his parents,
Yeah.
and they go to each other's houses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're like
They're childhood best friends.
They're childhood best friends, which makes their interactions not nearly as creepy. But they just,
But
like,
they're supposed to be like 30, right?
Yeah,
don't-
well, they're like 28,
they
like
don't
late
establish
20s.
that they don't establish that they've known each other that long
Yeah.
enough for
Yeah,
me for
enough,
those scenes
exactly. They
not for
don't-
those scenes not to play off as creepy.
Right.
Yeah, like, like their interactions in one of the
Yeah.
first scenes are literally just Ron
Go out with
Livingston
me.
saying, "Go out with me." No.
Yeah.
Go out with me.
No.
Go out with me.
No.
I think part of the problem with Kurt's character is that Ron Livingston is too good of an actor,
Yeah.
and Ron Livingston doesn't play him sitcom-y enough.
Yeah,
plays-
That's an
it's
interesting
true.
point.
He invests him in the sleaze, so you're like, this is a real guy. This is
Yeah.
a real, like, lonely, like, loser
Yeah.
type guy.
Yeah.
And then, like, if he was playing these lines a little sitcom-ier, they would maybe land a little funnier and, like, not, like, have you instantly think, oh god, this is dark.
And I mean, I've always had a bit of a crush on him, but not in this show. In this show,
No.
I
no.
was deeply, deeply
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
I'm also a fan of him normally, and I feel
Yeah.
like the reason
Yeah.
he doesn't work in Townies is for the
Yeah.
same reason he's great in Office Space. Because he's able to make you feel like in this comedic absurdist setting, he's very real.
Yeah.
And because he plays comedy like a dramatic actor. Like he does well when the funny is situational and not in the dialogue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's good. Yeah, he's really good at character based stuff.
Yeah, deeper character based
So
stuff.
there's our little dissection of Ron Livingston.
Yeah. Should we talk about the other really dark beat in the show?
The rape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's. How do we should have a.
Yeah. So the reason the girls kind of have a falling out at the end of the pilot is because Denise is very adamant about Shannon not having sex with her brother, who is newly engaged and has kind of a past with Shannon, and he's in town for the wedding. So most of the episode is spent with Denise pleading and begging with Shannon to not have sex with her brother. They have a bit of a reunion at the diner, and there's like some sexual tension, and but it seems like Shannon is like sticking to her guns, and nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But then after the like very boring bachelorette party, the girls kind of separate, and they have a bit of a, like a little tiff, and Shannon goes back home and suddenly gets this like aggressive pounding at her door. She answers the door to find Denise's brother on the other side, and he kind of pushes his way in.
Yeah, he pushes his way in and then instantly starts pushing into her like in a very aggressive way.
Yeah.
And his facial expression is not, there's nothing comedic about, there's nothing at all. It's just this dark.
Yeah, maybe another instance of like Patrick Fabian, the actor who plays the brother, maybe another instance of he's not playing this sitcom-y, so it gets really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And he's just very determined that he's gonna have sex with her, and he's just using all this language like, oh, you loved me in high school, and he's just like inching closer to her, and she's backing away.
And he pops his shirt off.
Oh yeah, and then he thrusts his crotch toward her, and is like, there's some sort of like scuffle where he's trying to get her to unbuckle his pants, and then at that moment, the other girls burst into the apartment, and they're basically, the response is, Shannon, how could you do this? Da, da, da. And it's like, he was being a predator.
Yeah, and then she plays it as if it's funny, where she's like,
oh, I bet this looks bad.
This looks bad.
It is such a disturbing scene that I would imagine watching it would be triggering for people. That's how bad it is.
And the way that it's shot and acted plays as a scene from a drama. It doesn't even seem like they're attempting to make it a scene in a sitcom. Even the parts of this show that did work for me, like I actually want to learn more about the three women who are in this show. But the
Yeah.
more of it I watched, the more I felt like they are developing as characters in a drama. It does feel like the makings of one of those 90s soapy kind of shows.
Yeah, it would work in who's that guy? Aaron Spelling. It would work in an Aaron Spelling show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, like
a Melrose Place.
A Melrose Place, like to have this dynamic between these three women.
Yeah.
It just doesn't land as comedy.
And that's another thing where like it just feels so weird to constantly put these main characters in conflict with each other, in non-comedic conflict with each other.
Yes.
Where it's like,
yes.
You know, like, again, I hate to keep coming back to Friends, but since this show is just Friends in small town Massachusetts, it's bound to. The friends over time would obviously come into conflict with each other, but they really built up to it to the point where, like, those fights would matter. Whereas this is like, all we know about them is that they don't get along very well.
It's almost as if the implication is they're only friends with each other because there's no other women their age around, and this is sort of what they're stuck with.
I mean, that's a thing, though.
Which might be a thing.
But it's also like, it's a sitcom writer being like, thank God I didn't end up like with these girls I went to high school with who are doing this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That joke when they're sitting on a dock and they're like kind of gazing down at the water, and it ends with Shannon talking to the fish through a megaphone. And it felt like that joke lasted several beats too long. But the thing is, like, it was one of those moments where on one level I appreciated it because it was the first and maybe only thing in the whole pilot where it felt like they were taking some sort of creative swing.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, and it didn't make me laugh, but it was something. Yeah. It was doing something.
I feel like that was her manic pixie dream girl moment.
For me, it was just a Phoebe Buffet joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke that would have worked on Phoebe.
Also, I feel like that's a drunk girl thing to do. I'm sure I would have done that if I were like 3 sheets to the wind. On a dock.
I guess that's another thing we could briefly dive into. Like that scene mostly works. That scene. So there's a scene in the middle where they're having like a heart to heart because it's their bachelorette party, and they're just sitting on the end of a dock, and they're having some beers together, and it's a scene that works. Unfortunately, it very quickly like dissolves into conflict again. Yeah, because they couldn't have a single scene of these girls hanging out without one of them getting on the other one for something.
Well, and it kind of summarizes the best of the potential this show has and the reason why it doesn't live up to that potential.
Yeah.
Because a scene like that at the beginning, I thought, okay, this is actually endearing me to the show. And then it goes back into this unnecessary conflict, jokes that don't land. But why can't we just get to have them be friends with each other?
Yeah, if these characters hung out, liked each other, and like just, you know, like if they got along like the characters of Friends or whatever, the show would probably work. The 3 of them are good together. All 3 of them are they're very talented performers. You know, you could have kicked the male supporting cast to the curb, and then not only that, but with the 3 of them hanging out, you would have put yourself in a very unique position in that there wasn't a female hangout show going on at that point.
Right.
Exactly. If you kept the 3 of them, made them genuine friends where you can see that they like hanging out together, and ditched the entire rest of the cast, now you've got yourself a show.
Yeah.
I mean, please, you know, give me some Conchetta Farrell.
Yeah.
In episode 2, and this builds with each episode, they keep trying to do more and more of the Boston area accent with each passing episode.
Yeah.
So in the pilot, there's virtually none. In episode 2, the first time I noticed it was Molly Ringwald attempting the accent in a scene in episode 2 where I'm like, if I hadn't already watched episode 1 where she doesn't do it at all, I wouldn't have minded it because she did it in a way that was like suitably subtle. But I feel like Billy Burr is there in this show largely because he's actually from that area, and he's the only one who has the legitimate way of speaking.
But has none of it in the pilot either.
But none of it in
None
the
of
pilot.
Yeah, it's weird. It like comes and goes, the accents. Like it's just kind of
Yeah,
in
comes
and out.
and goes randomly. By episode 3 or 4, Ron Livingston is doing a full Boston accent,
Yeah.
and it doesn't work.
No.
But by God, he's putting in the effort. Like, as you say, he's a solid actor. He's doing the
Yeah.
work. One thing I just want to note, because I know that you love production design stuff, Barry, is did you notice in the...
I love the diner so much.
Okay.
I really liked the diner set. It had layers to it. I liked the kitchen. Oh, I was all over that set.
in the fish diner, did you notice the little black and white photo of John F. Kennedy up in the
I did.
restaurant?
I did not, but that's a very nice touch.
Now, this was all shot, I believe, according to IMDb, in studio and backlot in LA.
100%.
I think that's kind of unfortunate because even though, like, obviously we know that most sitcoms are, but there's something about this town where I just wish we had that extra bit of authenticity of more like legitimate exteriors in a seaside village in Massachusetts.
But you know what? And that's the version of, and hell, maybe this is a new segment. What version of the show works? A version of this show works as an hour-long drama, and then you could have plenty of location shooting.
Yes. Hour-long drama, make the three of them legitimate friends, and shoot it in Massachusetts. And then I'm on board.
Can we just... I feel like we could probably get the rights to this show, right? Like, we could just remake this as a drama.
There actually is a drama called Townies. I don't know if you noticed that, like from a couple of years ago.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
But it's completely different.
It's a great, it's a good title.
Yeah.
It's a good title. It says all you really need.
Let's talk about our sitcom library of tropes.
I don't think I really had any specific tropes to add in this. I mean, the whole show it's a hangout show. It's a stereo, that's a type of sitcom.
I would say if we want to do it like real quickly, Conchetta Farrell.
Conchetta Farrell, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's your sitcom trope, Conchetta Farrell.
So Conchetta Farrell as a person and every character she has ever played is officially in the library. For 90s sitcoms specifically, Generation X career and relationship angst, where they question the institution of marriage, question whether there's any point in having specific career ambitions. But yeah, can that be a trope? Like Generation X career and relationship angst?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why was it canceled?
All right. Brynn, why do you think this was canceled?
Because the creators and writers hated women and it just wasn't funny.
I don't think there's any better way to put it, because that's pretty much exactly why it was canceled, I think.
We got into this a bit, but I think Brynn needs to do the spinoff.
Well, actually, I feel like I don't even have to do the spinoff because everyone knows where all these people ended up.
Yeah, I think this is one of those rare cases where I think we can skip it, because if you don't know who Lauren Graham, Jenna Elfman, Ron Livingston, or Molly Ringwald are,
and even Bill Burr,
I don't think you're listening to this show.
They're all prolific.
Yep, everybody who has a good speaking role in this later went on to work more. Rightfully so. They're all very talented performers. Oh, hey, I don't know if we pointed this out. I pointed this out when we were watching it, but did anybody else catch Lee Garlington as Molly Ringwald's mother, who is also in the pilot to Seinfeld?
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah, she was the proto-Elaine, the diner waitress in Monks.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I guess that kind of leads to one of our wrap-up segments as usual. We're getting to 6 Degrees of Friends, but since this show is so very similar to Friends, I'm guessing we're not too far removed.
Yeah, Barry, you would be right. It's very, very close. It has 1 degree, once again, because of our girl Connie Farrell. She did 1 episode, so it has the exact same connection as Teen Angel had. And okay, we have Pamela Fryman, who is a very prolific television director, one of the only solidly working female television directors that was working back in the 90s. She directed both Friends and Townies.
Okay, so for the non-Conchetta Ferrell, non-director version of 6 Degrees of Friends.
So if we're only talking about the main cast of Townies, we can safely say that Townies is 2 degrees separated from Friends 2 times over.
Ooh.
Firstly, we have Ron Livingston, who plays Kurt on Townies. He went on to be in one of my all-time favorite movies, Office Space, where his co-star and love interest was none other than Jennifer Aniston, who, of course, played Rachel Green in Friends. So boom, 2 degrees.
Love it. What's the other 2 degrees?
So that would be Lauren Graham.
Oh.
Lauren Graham, who plays Denise on Townies, went on to do a few episodes of the short-lived drama Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, and her co-star in that show was, of course, Matthew Perry, who played none other than Chandler Bing on Friends. Another 2 degrees.
Barry.
Yo.
Barry, you are a coked out TV producer in the 1990s. I'm a network executive. Pitch me Townies.
Okay, I think I can probably pull this one off. Hey, Aaron, you know the hit NBC show Friends?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if we did that exact same show set in small town Massachusetts, except there's a twist.
Go on.
Here's the twist. All the Friends characters, they openly seem to loathe each other in a way that's not even remotely comedic. It just reveals deep-seated insecurities in both the characters and the writers. That's it. That's my show.
Honestly, you had me at Friends. This was fun. We had a lot of laughs. But some things are no laughing matter. What lesson did we all learn from today's show?
Well, if you want to make a knockoff of the show Friends, you gotta maybe write characters that actually like each other.
Well, I guess I'll be seeing you guys virtually real soon. This is fun doing our first COVID-19 socially responsible social distancing episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stay home. Stay safe. If you're feeling anxious or down or just bored, pick up the phone, pick up the Zoom, reach out to talk to somebody. We're all in this together. We will make it through this and keep sharing some laughs.
Until next time, you two, and also for everybody listening, thanks for listening.
And cut to credits. That Was a Show is a production of Radio Gizmo. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on Instagram for info about upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends about it.
Next time on That Was a Show.
He definitely has that like 90s, I don't know what you'd call him, hunky deadbeat.
I've always wanted to be a 90s hunky deadbeat.
Just the undershirt and the leather jacket,
Yeah.
that hair.
Those pecs. Radio Gizmo.